in other videos and write-ups about me, I've said that in the beginning of my journey, my emotions were out of control, I lacked confidence, and I didn't know what was going on. And because of this, I needed answers, I needed a way to change my life. Because I wasn't simply willing to put up with what was going on. So I ended up first reading books, and as time passed, I ended up taking courses and working with different people. And this was primarily a time when it was about changing my beliefs and thoughts, and this was seen as a way for me to change my life. And so in a way it was about updating my software, changing what was going on up top in my mind, working on my intellect in a way. And for a little while this did work. I felt more settled, more confident, and I had a greater sense of direction. And then as time went by, and this was in, let's say, around the end of 2010 into 11, my emotions started to get out of control again. And to try and settle myself down in 2012, I ended up having hypnotherapy. And I'd already listened to hypnotherapy CDs, and this had worked. There was a moment in my life where I needed to be more confident for something in particular, and through listening to these CDs I ended up being very confident, and the whole experience went very well. So I went back to that, again back to my mind. And this was a time when things were being put in drawers, and I was encouraged just to let things go. And then at the beginning of 2013, I came to see that this wasn't cutting it. I needed to work on my emotions. And before this, I'd also had, in the beginning of 2012, I also had Reiki healing as a way to try and change my energy and what was going on. So in 2013, I came to believe that I needed to deal with my emotions. So just playing around with my mind and changing my thoughts was not cutting it. And after a while of trying to process my emotions with something called Shen therapy, this again only seemed to get me so far, because at this point I wasn't able to freely cry and to process my pain in that way. So I was feeling my feelings, but perhaps I wasn't doing the whole procedure because I wasn't able to cry. So this only got me so far. And then as time went on, I started to cry out unmet childhood needs and to cry out the losses that I'd experienced in my adult life. And this did allow me to make progress. But then in 2016, I was experiencing all this trauma, so terror, and this was something that had been there for quite some time. Throughout 2010, 11 and 12, but I was able to kind of push it down and to get it out of the way through using my mind and having other people assist me with this. But this came up in a big way, the terror, the shame, the fear, and it was almost like I was about to drown in my own pain, in my own inner world, because it was too much. And this was a time when I basically broke down, and I thought, not again, because I thought I was making progress, and I thought, no, this can't be happening again, and I didn't know what to do. And then I ended up working with someone in 2017, and this was a time when perhaps the first time I started to really deal with my trauma. So the terror, the survival responses, and then in 2017 at the end, towards the end, I ended up using a technique called TRE, total release experience, and this helped again. And as time has gone on, I've come to see this less about what is going on in my mind and more about what is taking place in my emotional body, my nervous system. And so what is clear to me is that it's been more about changing my hardware, so to speak, than my software. Because playing around with the mind, rearranging the furniture on the Titanic, as they say, can help very early on, but then as things build up, it can be totally useless, and it might be useless in the beginning. But because we live in a society that is very mind-based, very disembodied, it can seem as though it's all about the mind, and our thoughts create our feelings, and this is a half-truth. Our thoughts can trigger pain, trauma, feelings that are in our body, so it's not purely about the mind. But when it comes to things like NLP or CBT, it's very mind-based, and so what is going on at a deeper level can end up being totally overlooked. And so, for example, if someone has automatic thoughts and there's too much going on, the question is, why has someone got all these thoughts? What is producing these thoughts? Because this can be a defense against deeper pain, deeper trauma. So in the beginning for me, it was very much about the mind, and as time has gone on, I've come to see there's far more to it, and that what is taking place in my body is far more important when it comes to making real change and not just playing around and having short-term solutions, but to really transform myself and my life. I've come to see that it is essential to go deeper, because without this it can just lead to a sense of false hope and more pain, because the real deeper core issues won't be resolved. So, and another thing as well is that through working on the nervous system, the emotional body over time, my brain has obviously changed as well. So if you can see that you are not in a good way and you've been focusing on your mind for a long time, playing around with your software, then perhaps you need to take another approach, because perhaps your hardware is what needs to change. And of course, changing your hardware is not going to change overnight. It can be very easy to just change our software, to update our mind. We can do a course, we can have a coaching session, and we can feel better. We can have positive thoughts, just like spending time with a friend. But of course that can subside and we can go back to how things were. So if you can relate to this, please reach out for external support. This can be from a therapist or a healer, or if you feel the call to do so, reach out to me and perhaps I can assist you on your journey.